Join Tiny Tales Paradise for Caterpillar, Carl's Big Adventure, a moving bedtime story for kids. This educational kids story teaches us about the journey of a caterpillar into a butterfly through colorful animations and a warm narration. Perfect for bedtime or classroom learning. Subscribe for weekly fairy tales and moral stories. Caterpillar Carl's Big Adventure. Chapter 1. A munching, crunching life. In a sunny meadow, bursting with wildflowers and buzzing bees, there lived a caterpillar named Carl. Carl was no ordinary caterpillar. He was a bright green, slightly chubby fellow with a knack for telling jokes and a love for munching leaves. His home was a cozy patch of clover under a giant oak tree in the heart of Meadowville, a place where daisies danced in the breeze and ants marched in neat little rows. Carl's days were simple but splendid. He'd wake up at dawn, stretch his many legs. He wasn't sure how many counting them made him dizzy, and start his favorite activity eating. This clover is crisp, he'd say, chomping through leaves like a tiny lawnmower. His best friends, a ladybug named Dottie and a grasshopper named Gus, often joined him for breakfast. "Carl, you eat more than a whole ant colony," Dottie teased one morning, her red wings glinting in the sun. She was perched on a dandelion, sipping nectar like it was fancy tea. "Hey, I'm a growing caterpillar," Carl replied, his mouth full of leaf. "Gotta fuel these legs for whatever caterpillars do next." Gus, who was practicing his high jumps nearby, chuckled. "You mean besides eating Meadowville out of house and home?" Carl wiggled his eyebrows, or where eyebrows would be if caterpillars had them. "I'm preparing for greatness. My friends, just you wait." But deep down, Carl wasn't sure what greatness meant. He'd heard whispers from older caterpillars about something called metamorphosis, a big word that sounded like a fancy picnic. They said it turned caterpillars into butterflies, creatures with wings that could soar above the meadow. Carl thought that sounded ridiculous. Wings me. I'm built for munching, not flying. He'd scoff. Still, a tiny part of him wondered what it would be like to see Meadowville from the sky. One sunny afternoon, as Carl munched on a particularly juicy leaf, a wise old butterfly named Beatrice fluttered down. She had wings like stained glass, all purple and gold, and a voice as gentle as a breeze. "Carl," she said, "you're getting chubbier by the day. It's time to think about your next step." "Next step?" Carl asked, spitting out a leaf bit. "I'm happy right here. Beatrice, leaves, sunshine, friends. What else do I need?" Beatrice smiled. "You're meant for more than munching. Carl, every caterpillar has a journey to become a butterfly. It's not easy, but it's worth it. You'll see the world in a whole new way." Carl tilted his head. "A butterfly with wings. No offense, Beatrice, but I'm not sure I'm cut out for that. I'd probably crash into a tree." Beatrice laughed, her wings shimmering. "Trust the process. Carl, it's a big adventure, and you're braver than you think." As Beatrice fluttered away, Carl felt a flutter of his own, not in wings he didn't have, but in his heart. Maybe there was more to life than eating leaves. Maybe he could be a butterfly. Chapter 2. The Great Silk Plan. The idea of becoming a butterfly stuck in Carl's mind like a leaf in his teeth. He asked Dottie and Gus about it over lunch. More clover, of course. "Have you guys ever thought about metamorphosis?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Dottie paused mid-sip. "Sure. I've heard of it. Sounds like a lot of work. I'm happy being a ladybug's 6 legs, no drama." Gus leaped onto a blade of grass. I've got my jumps. Carl, why mess with a good thing? But if you want to try it, I say go for it. Just don't expect me to carry you up a tree. Carl laughed, but he was curious. That night, he dreamed of soaring over Meadowville, his wings, whatever those were, catching the wind. When he woke up, he made a decision. Okay, Carl, he told himself, let's do this butterfly thing. How hard can it be? According to Beatrice, the first step was building a chrysalis, a fancy word for a caterpillar sleeping bag. Carl needed to spin silk and wrap himself up tight. Sounds cozy, he thought, imagining a leafy blanket. But spinning silk was harder than it looked. Carl started by munching extra leaves to boost his energy. Fuel for the silk factory, he declared, chomping through a clover patch. Then he tried to spin. He wiggled. He squirmed. He even did a little caterpillar dance. But all he got was a sticky thread that stuck to his legs. Ugh. This is a mess. He groaned, untangling himself. Dottie, watching from a nearby flower, giggled. You look like you're wrestling a spider web. Carl. Very funny. Carl muttered. How do I make this silk stuff work? Gus hopped over. Maybe ask Beatrice. She's done this before. So Carl tracked down Beatrice, who was sipping nectar on a buttercup. Beatrice, my silk's a flop. It's all sticky and won't stick right. Help. Beatrice fluttered her wings. Spinning silk takes practice. Carl, focus on one spot, like a sturdy branch. Let the silk flow slowly, and wrap it around you bit by bit. It's like building a fort. Carl nodded, determined. He found a strong branch on the oak tree and tried again. This time, he moved slowly, letting tiny threads of silk drip from his mouth. It was slow and messy. Half the silk stuck to his face, but after hours of work, he had a small, lumpy cocoon starting to form. Looking good. Carl Dottie cheered, spotting the progress. It's lumpy, Carl admitted, panting. But it's a start. For days. Carl spun and spun, his legs aching, his body tired. Sometimes he wanted to give up and go back to munching leaves, but every time he felt like quitting, Dottie would tell a silly joke, or Gus would do a fancy jump to cheer him up. You're gonna be the coolest butterfly, Carl Gus said. Keep spinning. By the end of the week, Carl had built a chrysalis, a snug, green pod hanging from the oak branch. It wasn't perfect, but it was his. Time for the big sleep, he said, yawning. He crawled inside, feeling nervous but excited. See you on the other side, guys. Dottie waved a tiny leg. Sweet dreams. Carl. Gus grinned. Don't snore too loud. As Carl settled into his chrysalis, the world grew quiet. He didn't know what was coming, but he trusted Beatrice's words. It's a big adventure. With that, he closed his eyes and let the magic begin. Chapter 3. The Long, Wiggly Wait Inside the Chrysalis. Carl expected to nap and wake up as a butterfly, easy peasy. But it wasn't like that at all. It was dark, cramped, and weirdly squishy. His body felt like it was rearranging itself, like a puzzle being taken apart and put back together. This is not cozy, he thought, wiggling uncomfortably. Beatrice didn't mention this part. Days passed, maybe weeks. Carl couldn't tell. He couldn't see Dottie or Gus, and there were no leaves to munch. Sometimes he heard faint chirps from birds or the buzz of bees outside. But mostly, it was just him and his thoughts. What if I come out with no wings, he worried. Or worse, what if I'm a really clumsy butterfly? To keep himself calm, Carl told himself jokes. Why did the caterpillar go to school to improve his butterfly-tude? He chuckled. But the chrysalis felt tighter every day. His legs didn't feel like legs anymore, and his body was changing in ways he couldn't understand. It was scary, but also exciting. I'm turning into something new, he thought. I hope it's awesome. Outside, Dottie and Gus kept watch over the chrysalis. He's been in there forever, Dottie said, polishing her wings. Think he's okay. Gus bounced on a leaf. Carl's tough. He's probably dreaming of a giant clover buffet. Beatrice visited too, checking the chrysalis with a knowing smile. He's doing fine, she said. Metamorphosis takes time. It's like baking a cake, you can't rush it, or it'll flop. Dottie tilted her head. So, Carl's a cake now. Beatrice laughed. Not quite. But he's becoming something beautiful. Inside, Carl was learning patience. He couldn't rush the process, no matter how much he wanted to. He thought about his meadow, his friends, and the stories Beatrice told about flying. If I can get through this, he told himself, I can handle anything. So he waited, trusting that something amazing was happening, even if it felt like the longest nap ever. Chapter 4. The Big Reveal. One morning, Carl felt a twitch. His chrysalis felt too small, like a sweater that didn't fit. He wiggled, pushed, and cracked the chrysalis split open. Sunlight poured in, and Carl tumbled out onto the oak branch, blinking in the bright light. He felt different. His body was lighter, and something flapped behind him. He turned and gasped. Wings! I've got wings! They weren't just any wings. They were dazzling orange and black, with patterns like tiny suns. Carl flapped them experimentally, nearly falling off the branch. Whoa, these things are wild, he said, laughing. Dottie and Gus, who'd been napping nearby, woke up and cheered. Carl, you're a butterfly, Dottie squealed, flying circles around him. You look like a flying flower, Gus added, hopping excitedly. Carl grinned, still wobbly. I feel like a flying pancake. How do I work these wings? Beatrice fluttered over, her eyes twinkling. Take it slow, Carl. Flying's like dancing, you'll find your rhythm. Carl's first attempt at flying was not graceful. He flapped too hard, zoomed up, then crashed into a leaf. Oof, he grunted, shaking it off. Dottie giggled, and Gus pretended to cover his eyes. Don't quit your day job, Carl. But Carl didn't give up. He flapped again, slower this time, and lifted off the branch. He wobbled, dipped, and then soared. The meadow stretched out below him, a patchwork of green and gold. This is amazing, he shouted, doing a loop, and only slightly crashing into a flower. Beatrice flew beside him. You're a natural, Carl. Now, let's see what you can do with those wings. Chapter 5. A Butterfly's Job. Being a butterfly was more than just flying, Carl learned. Beatrice explained that butterflies helped flowers grow by carrying pollen from one bloom to another. You're a meadow superhero now, she said. You help make more flowers, which means more food for everyone. Carl was thrilled. Me, a superhero, sign me up. He practiced his pollen-carrying skills, landing on daisies and sipping nectar while spreading pollen dust. It was tricky sometimes. He sneezed and sent pollen everywhere, but he got better every day. One day, Carl noticed a patch of flowers wilting near the edge of Meadowville. Those guys need help. He told Dottie and Gus. No pollen, no new flowers. Let's fix it, Dottie said, buzzing off to recruit bees. Gus hopped around, spreading the word to other grasshoppers. Soon, Carl was leading a team of insects, fluttering from flower to flower, sharing pollen like a meadow delivery service. The wilting patch bloomed again, bursting with color. "You're a hero, Carl," Dottie said, landing on a petal. Carl blushed, as much as a butterfly can blush. "Just doing my job. Plus, I get to eat nectar now. It's like dessert all day." But Carl's adventures weren't over. He flew farther than ever, exploring new parts of Meadowville. He met ants who needed help carrying seeds, so he used his wings to guide them to the best spots. He helped a lost baby beetle find its family, fluttering overhead to scout the way. Everywhere he went, Carl's bright wings and goofy jokes made friends smile. Chapter 6. The Meadow Festival. Word of Carl's deeds spread, and Meadowville decided to throw a festival to celebrate. Bees buzzed with excitement. Ants baked tiny cakes, well, crumbs, and grasshoppers planned a jumping contest. Carl was the guest of honor, which made him feel both proud and a little shy. The festival was a blast. Fireflies lit up the night, crickets played music, and Carl showed off his flying tricks, only crashing once. Dottie led a ladybug parade, and Gus won the jumping contest, naturally. Beatrice gave Carl a special flower crown, saying, "You've made Meadowville brighter. Carl, your wings aren't just for flying, they're for helping." Carl looked at his friends, the blooming flowers, and the starry sky. "I thought being a butterfly was about looking cool," he said, chuckling. "But it's about making things better for everyone." As the festival ended, Carl perched on the oak tree, watching the meadow glow. He'd gone from a leaf-munching caterpillar to a butterfly who helped his home thrive. It hadn't been easy spinning silk, waiting in the chrysalis, learning to fly, but every wiggly, wobbly moment was worth it. Chapter 7. Carl's New Groove. From then on, Carl was Meadowville's favorite butterfly. He still told corny jokes. Why don't butterflies use maps? Because they wing it, and sometimes got pollen up his nose. But he loved his new life. He flew with Beatrice, learning new tricks, and helped Dottie and Gus with their projects. The meadow bloomed brighter than ever, thanks to Carl's pollen-spreading skills. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of pink and orange, Carl landed on a clover patch, his old munching spot. Dottie and Gus joined him, nibbling their own snacks. "So, Carl," Dottie said, "was metamorphosis worth it?" Carl flapped his wings, sending a breeze through the clover. "Totally. It was hard, messy, and a little scary, but now I'm helping Meadowville grow. Plus, I get to fly." "How cool is that?" Gus grinned. "Pretty cool. Butterfly boy. Just don't forget us ground dwellers." "Never," Carl said, laughing. "You guys are my wingmen, wing bugs." As the stars twinkled, Carl looked out at Meadowville, his home. He'd learned that change wasn't just about getting wings. It was about growing, helping, and finding joy in the journey. And with friends by his side, Carl knew he could handle any adventure, no matter how wiggly. The end.